The Boston Red Sox need to get an extension done with Brayan Bello ASAP. Here's why on today's Locked on Red Sox.
You are Locked on Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed for free. And honestly, who doesn't love free? Might as well try it, right? Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Welcome to another episode of the show. Just a reminder that Locked On is your team every day. So I am here to bring you as much as I can about the Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, no matter what. And that, no matter what, has certainly been in play for a lot of this offseason, as we've seen the Red Sox be passive in a lot of the moves they've made so far. Do they want to really improve the team? Are they focusing on the future? And it seems more and more obvious that the future is their goal. But there are a couple things that sound a little bit promising based on reports that have come out over the last couple days. So I'm going to be touching on all of that today. And Brayan Bello is a pitcher who the Red Sox have certainly viewed as a potential ace for this pitching staff. He's gotten a lot of opportunities to start games. He's been able to grow and develop as a pitcher over time. And I've liked a lot of what I've seen from him. He grew a lot from 2022 to 2023. Definitely a lot of improvement there overall. He does have to improve even more during his daytime starts. But during the 2023 season, he had a 12-11 record with a 4.24 ERA over 28 games that he started. He struck out 132 batters. And a lot of these numbers look pretty good. Like striking out 132 in the season is pretty good, but he still needs to get that number up. For a starter right now, he's averaging about 6 to 7 strikeouts per game. And if he really wants to be an ace, he has to bump that up to about 8 to 10 strikeouts per start. He certainly has some of the mechanisms to become an ace. There's no shame in striking out 132 batters over the course of the season when you're starting. He definitely has the means to get that number up. The question, though, is will he? I mean, for a starter who is about a 2, 3, or 4 level starter, striking out 6 or 7 batters in a start is good. But if he wants to take that next level to be the number one guy in the pitching staff, that's when he's going to have to start bumping up those numbers and striking out hitters at a quicker rate. Now, if you look at his earned run average, he struggled a lot more during daytime starts than he did at night. And that was something that really hurt him during the 2023 season. Was for some reason he always gave up a lot more runs during the day. He gave up about 5 to 6 runs on average during his daytime starts, as opposed to at night when he gave up on average 2 to 3 runs per start. And 2 to 3 runs per start is ace caliber stuff. But then when you look at his daytime starts, you're not saying that he was an ace during those starts. So the question is, how do we get him to be consistent across the board? Now, he has shown glimpses of being absolutely dominant. And when it comes to the Red Sox now, it's about figuring out what do we need to change about his daytime routine to make his daytime starts as effective as the night ones are. Because I have no doubt that that can happen with some adjustments the Red Sox can make to his regime and his warm-ups to make him more prepared for daytime starts. So I'm sitting here saying, what can Andrew Bailey do to work with him? Because he has a lot of potential to be that guy. It's just a matter of tweaking some things and him feeling more warmed up quicker for daytime starts. Because obviously, it's going to be a shorter routine, especially if you have a night game the night before and then you have to go and turn it around to a day game. He's going to show up early and start to warm up, but the pitchers are all sitting there in the clubhouse, watching the game that's going on the night before. So he's still at the field, so he's still getting back late, even if he doesn't pitch the night before. So then if he does have the daytime start the next day, he's going to have to adapt to maybe pitching on less rest because physically he'll be more tired, but also how does he adjust his routine to make it a little bit more condensed so that he can be more effective during those daytime starts? That's something that pops in my head as the biggest thing that he needs to improve on as a pitcher. But there have been talks about the Red Sox being in conversation with him about an extension. It doesn't sound like anything's imminent right now, so I don't expect to really hear this news tomorrow, but I guess you never know because the Red Sox have been very unpredictable this offseason. But it does sound like those conversations are happening, which is a good thing because the Red Sox should want to extend him. This is a talent who has shown a lot of potential, has grown through your organization, and for a team that seems to have changed their mentality now in terms of focusing more on the future than they are the present, that's great and all if you feel like your future is bright and you feel like you have a lot of talented players there to the point where you can build a championship contending team down the road. You can focus on the future, and part of that future should include a guy who was the most consistent starter in your rotation last year, the go-to guy, the guy that you relied on the most and brought very good stuff. Why would you not extend a guy like that who has a ton of talent and again has developed through your system to the point where he can contribute later on? Because if the Red Sox want to start changing this whole mindset of people thinking they don't value or prioritize their tenured players who have been there for a while, now is the time to change that narrative and give Bello that confidence he needs. Because if they got an extension done now, imagine how much less stress would be on him and pressure when he goes into the season knowing that he has that contract locked up as opposed to having to prove himself in that contract. Because another thing about Bello that concerns me a little bit is how well is he able to pitch under pressure? Because we've seen him pitch in crunch time. We've seen him have really good starts in close games and get out of some jams. But can he handle the emotional stress that might come with constantly having to pitch your best and prove yourself? And obviously, if he signs an extension, it's not to say he's going to not pitch well anymore because that would be a huge disappointment. He still would pitch well, but mentally, he'd be more likely to be able to amp up his performances without having to think about, I'm trying to get an extension here, so I have to be perfect every time. And that could put a lot of stress and pressure on a pitcher. So it's important for him to realize what happens with this Red Sox team. This is my future. And hopefully they can get something done sooner rather than later. I do think that the Red Sox front office recognizes the talent that he has. And I do think they see him as a player who's worth extending. The question, though, is just, are they willing to get that done now? Are they willing to break open the wallets and sign him long term. He is a piece of the puzzle that you absolutely want to keep and continue to build around for the future, regardless of what happens with the rest of this offseason and regardless of if the Red Sox are competitive or not in 2024. Bello is a guy who will be competitive and will give you 100% every day. So the Red Sox need to extend him sooner rather than later. If they don't and he hits free agency, a lot of teams are going to be in demand for him. We saw this happen with Xander Bogaerts. Obviously, I'm not saying they should have given him the contract that he got from the Padres. Way too much money, way too long of a period of time. The Red Sox were smart to not do that, but they could have definitely got him for a lesser of a deal if they got on it sooner than they did. So I'm glad these conversations are happening. Do we see an extension happen before the season starts? That would absolutely 100% be ideal. I think it would take a lot of stress and pressure off him, and it would give the Red Sox peace of mind knowing, okay, now that we have him locked up long term, he's worth investing him. We can continue to work with him so that he can eventually be our ace. That's what we want to get towards, because the Red Sox still don't have an ace on the pitching staff right now, and Bello can be that guy. He just needs more time to work on his stuff, perfect his craft, and pitch better during the daytime. It just is what it is, and every pitcher has their weaknesses, and those are a lot of his. So if he can continue to develop that confidence, he can eventually be an ace, and the Red Sox do need to realize that and sign him to an extension now. One other thing, though, that they need to realize is that they could really use another starter this offseason. And the question is, will that happen? There's been some rumblings about it, and you'll find out next. If you're ever in a last-minute pinch to get tickets, GameTime is the place for you. I actually used it recently. I'm going to the Dan and Shay concert in April at TD Garden, and I was looking for tickets, and they were so expensive. They're great. I love Dan and Shay. They're one of my favorite country bands. And I was looking for good seats, and a lot of the ticket vendors were giving unreasonable prices. And I said, I'm not paying that money to go to a concert. So I looked at GameTime, and sure enough, GameTime saved the day. It was there for me. I got tickets at a much more reasonable price. And I know where the seats are, so I could see that I'm going to have a good view. So it also gives you peace of mind knowing where you're sitting so that you don't have to worry about getting bad seats and not being happy with the experience because of that. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. It really will guarantee you the lowest price. I've had so many great experiences with it. So if you're looking for a non-stressful ticket buying experience, GameTime is the place for you. The other thing that you should check out is Locked On Sports Today, as Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. This is a great thing for our network because nobody else does this. So Locked On is actually the first network to have a national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So you should absolutely check it out today. The Boston Red Sox are in a state of having to figure out what they want to do before opening day, if they want to make any more moves or not, or if they're happy with the roster that they have in front of them. And personally, another pitcher would be incredibly helpful for this team. Do they see it that way? We don't really know, but there are some rumblings that the Red Sox are in deep conversations with Jordan Montgomery. Who knows how reliable these sources actually are, but there are some things going around saying that the Red Sox are considered the front runner to sign him. We've seen this before. We've had that word used in regards to the Red Sox before, so take this with a grain of salt. But if the opportunity is there, the Red Sox should absolutely sign Jordan Montgomery. I mean, why wouldn't they? He's better than any other starting pitcher the Red Sox have right now, and he has that proven postseason experience. So the Red Sox could take comfort knowing they have a starter in there who's been on the big stage and pitched his absolute heart out on that big stage. Now, the question is, are the Red Sox willing to open up the wallets and spend the money that it takes to get him? Obviously, his asking price is pretty high given that he hasn't signed anywhere yet, and I thought that he would be in pretty high demand this offseason due to his performance in the World Series. But obviously, his asking price is making teams hesitant about wanting to sign him. So, are the Red Sox willing to pay the price that is needed to sign him, or do they not see it as being worth it? And all signs show that they might not see it as being worth it based on their behavior in the rest of this offseason and how everything's gone for them that way in the direction that they've taken. So I'm not feeling like it's likely, but Jordan Montgomery would definitely be worth it. He had a 3.20 ERA last year over 32 games pitched. He struck out 166 hitters. One thing about Montgomery that I think could really stand out about him is really that strikeout rate. He's striking out batters 21.4% of the time, so he's going to get those swings and misses. He only walks guys 6.2% of the time. Definitely could bump that down a little bit to basically focus more on his control so that he's not walking as many guys, but that's still not a significant number to the point where we need to worry about it. He will get those swings and misses. He will fool guys and get those ground balls. And we also know that he's able to step up in the moments that matter most. And one thing about the Boston Red Sox during the 2023 season was I was looking at the starting rotation and I was saying, do they have anybody right now in this rotation that we really could trust to step up when it counts? And I was hard pressed to really find that starter. I mean, Brayan Bello, like I talked about earlier in the show, could definitely be that guy that can step up under pressure like that. But anybody else, I wasn't really confident. James Paxton degressed at the end of the season to the point where if it came down to it and the Red Sox had miraculously qualified for a playoff spot, did I trust him to be consistent in the postseason? Very hard to make that argument that I could trust him. And then you look at other guys who pitched in that rotation and you're asking yourself, how reliable are they? Cutter Crawford definitely showed improvement in 2023 compared to 2022, but not quite to the point where I could trust him to be that go-to guy. And if the Red Sox are serious about competing, somebody like Jordan Montgomery could be really beneficial for them because they can look at him and say, that's the guy we know will step up. And obviously, you know, I'm sure there are other teams interested in him, but the Red Sox need to put forth a valiant effort to sign somebody like that because I personally think he's worth it. And there's been a lot of mixed reviews on it, like people saying, well, he's not really that good. Like during the regular season, he isn't great. And that's definitely a fair argument. He is solid, but not super good to the point where you can almost ask yourself, is he truly going to make this team better? And the answer is still yes, because although he's not the best pitcher during the regular season, he still is effective. And don't the Red Sox want effective at this point? I'm not saying Montgomery is going to come in and be an all-star caliber talent. I don't really think that'll be the case, but I do think that what he showed in the World Series, some of that will at least carry over to the point where he will be considered that number one guy for Boston if he does come in, and he hands down would make this starting rotation better than it is. So it's hard for me to get behind people not wanting him because he could improve the starting rotation. And the other thing that I find interesting about him is he's not settling. He's a Boras client. Boras definitely values his clients and makes sure they're getting the best deal that they can get. If you know much about Scott Boras, you know that he is very strategic when it comes to his clients, wants to take care of them, wants to make sure they're getting the best deal that they can possibly get, which is great. And I think Montgomery won't settle until he gets a deal that he feels is fair. And it's going to be really laughable if it comes out after the fact that what the Red Sox offered him was super weak compared to other teams. And I get it. Red Sox fans want an ace. But the problem is right now, in free agency, there are no longer really truly ace caliber pitchers. Like, you can say maybe Blake Snell because he's the reigning National League Cy Young Award winner. But is he really, though? I mean, he is injury prone at this point in his career. He has been inconsistent. He had a good season last year, but has just been very up and down. So can he be that truly reliable ace? So the problem now becomes the Red Sox clearly aren't going to trade for an ace because they don't want to give up their young pieces because they're focused on the future. So then the question is, what do they do? I mean, if they want to get better this offseason from a pitching standpoint, signing Montgomery might be the best way to go because he'd be a good fit at Fenway and he improves the starting rotation. So I'd like to see a deal happen. Whether the Red Sox feel the same way is up for questioning and up for debate, but there are rumors that the Red Sox supposedly are trying to work out a deal with him. So we'll see if that actually happens or not. But I hope it does. He would make the starting rotation better, and eventually you have to ask yourself, okay, well, if we're not going to get an ace, what's the next best option? And to me, Montgomery is that next best option. We are 35 days from opening day. I will be going over a noteworthy player to wear number 35 for the Red Sox next. Do you absolutely love sports betting? Are you the type of person who will make bets all day, every day if you could? If that's you, FanDuel is absolutely the place for you. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Why not take your chance? If you care about winning money, you should definitely head to FanDuel because it'll give you so many opportunities to do that. You should also head to Locked On Sports today on YouTube or Amazon Fire TV because we have launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. It's honestly really great if you want to get caught up in all things going on in sports so you don't have to worry about scrolling through Twitter. Just head to Locked On Sports Today and we have you covered 24/7. 35 days until opening day, everybody. That countdown just still continues. We're getting closer and closer and still not feeling much more confident about the Boston Red Sox as a whole. There are certain players who I hope will step up this year and make them a little bit better than people might think. But overall, as a general mindset, we are not thrilled. And that's very reasonable because the Red Sox have not committed to winning right now. And it's been pretty apparent. But will that change before opening day? Only time will tell. 35 days left. Who is a noteworthy player to have worn number 35 for the Boston Red Sox? That would be Rickey Henderson. If you're asking yourself, did Rickey Henderson actually play for Boston? The answer is yes, he absolutely did. Baseball's all-time stolen base king had 8 of his 1,406 career thefts for the 2002 Red Sox. Isn't that interesting? He played 25 seasons in Major League Baseball for 9 teams from 1979 to 2003, including 4 separate tenures with his original team, which was the Oakland A's. And he was nicknamed the Man of Steel because he's widely regarded as baseball's greatest leadoff hitter and base runner, holding MLB's record for career stolen bases, runs, unintentional walks, and leadoff home runs. At the time of his last major league game in 2003, the 10-time AL All-Star ranked among the sport's top 100 all-time home run hitters and was its all-time leader in walks. In 2009, he was inducted to the Baseball Hall of Fame on his first ballot appearance. Henderson holds a single season record for stolen bases, 130 in 1982, and is the only player in AL history to steal 100 bases in a season, having done so 3 times in 1980, 1982, and 1983. His 1,406 career steals is 50% higher than the previous record of 938. He's the all-time stolen base leader for the Oakland Athletics and previously held the New York Yankees franchise record from 1988 to 2011. He was among the league's top 10 base stealers in 21 different seasons. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Imagine just having that good of a base stealer on your team who's just an absolute speedster. That's pretty awesome. He was named the AL's most valuable player in 1990 and was twice the leadoff hitter for World Series champions, the 1989 Oakland Athletics and the 1993 Toronto Blue Jays. He was a 12-time stolen base champion and led the league in runs 5 times. His 25-year career elevated him to the top 10 in several other categories, including career at-bats, games, and outfield putouts and total chances. His high on-base percentage, power hitting, and stolen base and run totals made him one of the most dominant and innovative players of all time. When he was playing with the Red Sox, that was relatively later in his career. He played there in 2002. In February 2002, he signed as a free agent with the Red Sox, where at age 43, he became the oldest player to play center field in Major League history when he replaced Johnny Damon for 3 games in April and another in July. During the 22 and a half years from his June 1979 debut through the end of the 2001 season, he had stolen more bases by himself than his new team had. 1,395 steals for Henderson, 1,382 for the Boston franchise. It's so ridiculous to think about. The Red Sox finally passed Henderson on April 30th, 2002. At 43, Henderson was the oldest player in the AL. And then as the 2003 season began, he was without a team for the first time in his career. He played in the Independent Atlantic League, hoping for a chance with another major league organization. And then after being named the Atlantic League All-Star Game MVP and receiving a lot of media attention, the Dodgers signed him over the All-Star break. In 30 games with the Dodgers, he had 15 hits and 3 stolen bases with a .208 batting average. And then before the 2003 season, his last in the majors, he discussed his reputation for hanging on to his lengthy baseball career and then played his last major league game on September 19th, 2003. He was hit by a pitch in his only plate appearance and came around to score his 2,295th run. He then just continued to not officially announce his retirement, and in May 2005, he was still insisting that he was capable of playing in the majors. And then NBC and ESPN reported that he had announced his much-delayed official retirement on December 6th, 2005, but his agent denied the report the following day. On February 10th, 2006, he accepted a position as a hitting instructor for the Mets while leaving the door open to returning as a player. In July 2006, Henderson discussed an offer he'd received to rejoin the Surf Dogs for the 2006 season, which would have been his 31st in professional baseball. But basically at that point, he said he had had enough. And then he eventually just continued to prolong it. And then he finally conceded his official retirement on July 13th, 2007. The Athletics retired his number 24 on August 1st, 2009. But he was a one-year Red Sox player who made some noise for sure, especially because of the stolen bases and his offensive accolades. But there you have it, folks. An interesting player who wore number 35 for the Boston Red Sox. It's always interesting to look back and see in history over time who really made an impact with each number, who you're going to remember to have worn that jersey. And a lot of people don't remember him being there because he was only there for a season. But he certainly made some noise. And I hope the Red Sox make some noise during the rest of this offseason. But I'm really not convinced that they will. As always, though, just try your best to keep the faith. Go Red Sox. And I will catch you on the flip side.